If you've ever sat in an ICU for 72 hours straight, watching machines do the breathing your kid should be doing on his own, you start to see life differently. You stop pretending things are fine. You stop defending people who don't show up. And you definitely stop answering your dead wife's mother's calls, especially when she's just mad you missed a birthday party. My name's Ethan. I'm 35, widower, school administrator, single dad to a 12-year-old kid who just got hit by a car while riding his bike on what was supposed to be the first real day of spring. We were 2 weeks away from a trip to DC, our first vacation in 6 years. I'd finally gotten a raise. Tyler had just joined the robotics club. Life, for once, wasn't collapsing. Then the phone rang at 11:27 a.m. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Are you the parent of Tyler Williams? That's how it always starts in the movies, right? In real life, you don't drop the phone. You don't scream. You go very still. Your world narrows to a point, and then you start moving. Car keys, shoes, door, drive. Red lights don't exist. You park like a lunatic and sprint through sliding glass doors, repeating his name like a password. He's in surgery, the nurse said. 6 hours. 6 hours of fluorescent lights, silent prayers, and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The surgeon came out with the face they probably practice in mirrors. Severe head trauma. Internal bleeding. We've done what we can. The next 48 hours are critical. That's where I've been. 3 days in a plastic chair. My son, unconscious, half his head shaved, hooked to a ventilator. My job? Sit there. Talk. Wait. Don't fall apart. And then my phone rang again. Caller ID, Barbara. My late wife's mother. Queen of performance concern and conditional generosity. I thought maybe, just maybe, she was calling to ask how her grandson was doing. Nope. She wanted to know if I could come early to help set up for Vanessa's birthday. Her daughter's dead. Her grandson might not wake up. And she's worried about cake forks. That was the moment something in me cracked. I didn't yell. I didn't explain. I just said, no, Barbara. I'm not leaving my son. She didn't miss a beat. If you don't come, I'll cut you off. Cut me off. Like I was some teenage slacker living in her pool house, not a grown man keeping her grandson alive with sheer willpower and vending machine coffee. I hung up. Then I stared at my phone for a long second, thumb hovering over her contact. And for the first time since Emily died, I did something I probably should have done years ago. I deleted her number. 3 taps. Gone. No more. Barbara had always been the kind of woman who could host a charity gala the same week a family member landed in the ER. Everything in her life was a performance. Appearances were gospel. Emotion was weakness. Unless it was hers, then it was an emergency. And Vanessa? Her golden child. I couldn't tell you what Vanessa actually does for a living. Something vague and well-filtered. Her real job is being adored. Family photos, perfect hair, yearly Christmas letters that read like a resume on Xanax. Of course, the birthday party was important. It was another chance for Barbara to showcase her success story. And nothing ruins a curated evening like your son-in-law skipping the shrimp platter because his actual son might die. But let's rewind. Before all this, before the ICU and the phone call from hell, my life wasn't exactly a fairy tale, but it worked. Emily and I got married young. She joined the army as an engineer. I stayed home, got my degree part-time, and held things down while she deployed. Everyone called her a hero. I agreed. At least, I used to. When she died overseas, I got the knock at the door, the folded flag, the polite pity from her family. Then came the support. Barbara offered to manage Tyler's college fund. Vanessa dropped by with casseroles she didn't cook. Richard, Vanessa's husband, made sure I knew how strong I was being, in the same tone you use with a dog that hasn't peed in the house. But real support? Showing up? That was always optional. And now, when I was actually drowning, they called it drama. Here's the thing about being the resilient one in the family: people start treating your pain like it's optional. Emily's gone? You're strong, you'll be fine. Tyler's in a coma? Doctors are doing their job, right? Now pass the gift bags. I'm not saying I needed a parade. I just thought someone, anyone, might ask how he was doing. Not once in all the calls I got from her side of the family did anyone say, "How's Tyler?" It was all, "Your absence was noticed." Vanessa's feelings are hurt. Barbara is very disappointed. You know what's disappointing? Watching your kid breathe through a machine while someone argues about place settings. The kicker came later that night when Vanessa's husband, Richard, corporate Ken Doll, called. He didn't waste time on small talk. Just jumped in with, "This has gone far enough. You need to make things right with Barbara." I stared at the wall for a few seconds, trying to decide if I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. Richard, I said slowly, my son is unconscious. Tubes in his chest. Bandages on his head. And you're calling me about a birthday party? He cleared his throat. It's not about the party. It's about respect. Family. Priorities. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. These are my priorities. Tyler, Tyler, and Tyler, I said. Barbara's feelings come in somewhere after expired yogurt and printer ink. He tried to shift gears, told me Vanessa had cried. That Barbara had a migraine. That everyone was uncomfortable with my tone. Meanwhile, Tyler's heart rate had dropped 30 points that morning and no one even noticed but the nurses. I hung up on Richard too. And then I turned my phone off. Completely. For the first time in years. No pings. No buzzing. Just silence. And the slow beep of a monitor that, frankly, was more family to me than half the people in my contacts list. The silence was nice for about an hour. Then came the doubt. I sat there watching the numbers on Tyler's monitor blink in their quiet rhythm, and I started wondering. Had I overreacted? Was I punishing my son for my issues with his mother's family? What if walking away from Barbara meant Tyler lost his college fund? His inheritance? His connection to her side of the family? Then I remembered something Tyler said when he was 7. He'd just gotten back from spending a day with Barbara and Vanessa while I worked a double shift. I was folding laundry when he asked, Dad, are we poor? The basket slipped out of my hands. Grandma says if you'd married someone with a real job instead of a soldier, we'd have a big house like Aunt Vanessa. I wanted to laugh. Or punch a wall. Or both. Instead, I knelt down, looked him in the eye, and said, we're not poor, but we have everything we need. We have each other. That's what matters. He nodded. Thought about it. Then added, but Aunt Vanessa has a pool. Barbara's been planting seeds like that in his head for years, soft digs disguised as concern. Public school's okay, I guess. You let him wear that? Are you sure you don't want to move closer to us? We could help more. Help? Her favorite 4-letter word. You want to know the truth? I used to think Emily shielded me from all that. That she was the buffer between me and her mother's high society passive aggression. Yeah? I'm not so sure. The more I looked back, the more I noticed things that didn't add up. The way Emily would sigh when I said no to her mother's generous offers. The way she always said, just let it go, Ethan, it's not worth the fight. The way she never really stood up for me. Not once. But hey, she was a war hero. Who was I to question anything? Emily was a master of public image. She could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with everyone convinced she was the smartest, kindest, most loyal woman they'd ever met. And maybe that was true. For them. At home? Things were different. I don't say this to tarnish her memory. I say it because I'm tired of lying to myself. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't abusive. She was just gone. Even when she was home between deployments, she was somewhere else, up in her head, on her phone, planning the next thing. She could spend an hour talking to Tyler and not once look up from her laptop. I made excuses. She's tired. It's the stress. She's serving her country. Meanwhile, I was serving dinner, folding laundry, and doing bedtime stories solo. We didn't fight. That would have meant engaging. We just existed side by side. Two professionals with a kid in common. A good marriage on paper. A partnership built on logistics, not love. When she died, everyone called me strong. They didn't see me wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I heard her key in the door. They didn't see me sit in the garage for 20 minutes, just staring at the seat where she used to ride. Barbara, of course, swooped in like a grief counselor with a spreadsheet. She took over the funeral planning because I was too emotional. She rewrote the obituary to make sure the wording highlighted Emily's accomplishments, not our family life. And when it was over, she handed me a folder labeled Trust Fund Instructions and said, we'll take care of Tyler. You just focus on surviving. Translation, step aside. We'll shape him the way we want. I didn't fight her. Not back then. I was too wrecked to care. But now? Now I was watching that same boy lie in a hospital bed and her only concern was canapes and centerpieces. Whatever sympathy I had left for Barbara died in that moment. By the 4th day in the hospital, I'd stopped pretending I was holding it together. My clothes smelled like industrial soap and stress. My eyes felt like they'd been sandblasted. The nurses, God bless them, were gentle, but I saw the looks. The quiet, please eat something glances. The way they always ended a sentence with my name, like anchoring me in place. Mr. Matthews, the EEG came back. Tyler's brain activity is improving. Improving. Not fixed. Not safe. But better. It was enough to breathe for the first time in days. Kelly, the day nurse, gently insisted I take a shower. 15 minutes, she said. We'll sit with him. I promise. I almost said no. Then I saw the bags under my eyes in the reflection of the vending machine and gave in. I was halfway down the hallway when my phone buzzed. I'd only turned it back on that morning. Barbara. Again. I stared at it like it might catch fire in my hand. Then I answered. Ethan, she said, crisp and direct as always, I'm finalizing the schedule for Vanessa's dinner. I need you here by 2. No hello. No, how's Tyler? Just calendar management. Barbara, I said, I'm not leaving the hospital. You've been there long enough, she replied. Doctors are doing their job. You sitting there doesn't change anything. I blinked at the fluorescent light above me. It actually flickered. Like in a movie. You couldn't write this kind of villainy. My son has a tube in his throat, I said. He hasn't opened his eyes in 4 days. And you're talking to me about hors d'oeuvres? This is important to your sister-in-law, she snapped. She's been planning it for months. Do you know how it will look if you're not there? There it was. The real motive. Not care. Not concern. Optics. Let me be very clear, I said, my voice like gravel. If you say one more word about shrimp cocktail, I will block this number and never unblock it again. Silence. Then, if you don't come, I'll cut you off. The fund. The inheritance. All of it. You've left me no choice. And that's when it finally hit me. It was never about support. It was about control. And this time, she had no idea how much I'd already decided to walk away. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't even flinch. I just said okay. Barbara must have misheard. She paused. Excuse me. You're right. It is my choice. And I'm choosing my son. Then I hung up. No drama. No final word. Just, done. It was strange, the quiet that followed. Not the kind you hear. The kind you feel. Like putting down a weight you didn't realize had been strapped to your chest for 3 decades. I stood in that hospital hallway longer than I should have. Just breathing. Just existing without her voice in my ear for the first time since college. Back when Emily and I got engaged, Barbara sat me down like it was a business meeting. She didn't scream. She didn't insult. She just questioned. Graduate school? Career goals? Can you support her during deployments? She didn't see me as a person. I was an investment risk. Low yield. High volatility. I married Emily anyway. Figured love would do what resumes couldn't. And when Tyler was born, I thought maybe things would change. That holding her grandson might soften Barbara's spine of steel. It didn't. She criticized how I held him. What formula we used. What pediatrician we picked. Just suggestions, she'd say, smiling tightly. You don't have to follow them. Except you did. If you wanted peace. If you wanted access to that sacred fund. Well, not anymore. When I walked back into Tyler's room, Nurse Kelly looked up and asked, everything okay? No, I said. But it will be. I sat down beside my son and took his hand again. Still with me, buddy? I whispered. He didn't squeeze back. But I didn't need him to, not yet. Because I was finally showing up for both of us. No strings. No performance. Just me. And him. And that was enough. Funny how a hospital room can feel more honest than a family dinner table. Nobody's pretending here. Monitors beep. IVs drip. You don't have to smile. You don't have to small talk. The air is full of raw truth and disinfectant. I spent the next 24 hours by Tyler's side, watching the lines on the screen like they were holy scripture. Every small improvement felt like a miracle. A stabilized heart rate. Lower brain pressure. A twitch in his leg. Hope when you're this far down is dangerous, but I took it anyway. Then came the text. Not from Barbara this time. Vanessa. I know Tyler is sick, but it's just a few hours. You could at least send a gift. Sick. Like he had the flu. Like he wasn't hooked up to half the hospital's electrical system. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. That message told me everything. This wasn't about Emily anymore. Or grief. Or legacy. This was about a family that had spent years turning performance into religion, and I was the guy who finally refused to wear the costume. You'd think that after all these years I'd stop being surprised. But there I was, still looking at that screen like maybe, just maybe, they'd say something human. But here's the truth. The only reason Barbara and Vanessa tolerated me was because Emily did. And now that she was gone, so was the illusion. Tyler stirred a little later. Just a movement under the blanket, but enough to send my pulse skyrocketing. The nurse checked the monitors, nodded slightly. Good sign, she said. We're reducing sedation. Could see responsiveness soon. I should have been thrilled. But all I could think about was what kind of world my son would wake up to. A world where his mother was gone. A world where her family only cared when it suited them. A world where I had to decide, do I protect his connection to that legacy? Or finally burn the bridge I should have lit years ago? Around noon, my phone rang again. Dad. Not Barbara. Not Vanessa. Just Dad. One of the few people on that side of the family who didn't speak in ultimatums or backhanded compliments. How is he today? He asked, voice low like he was in a car. Still sedated, but improving. That's good, he said. Then, after a beat, I'm driving your mother and Vanessa to pick up the cake. Of course he was. Dad, I said, already feeling the pressure rise behind my eyes, please don't ask me if I've reconsidered. He sighed. She's very upset, Ethan. She says you're being unreasonable? Disrespectful? Ungrateful. I cut in. Pick one. I've heard them all. You know how she is, he said. This scares her. No, Dad. This inconveniences her. What scares her is losing control. Silence. Then, I'll try to stop by the hospital later. Don't bother if it's going to be a thing, I said. Just enjoy the party. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't walk them back. I was too tired. Too raw. Too done. After I hung up, I stared at the wall and realized something I hadn't let myself think before. Tyler had no one but me. No one else was fighting for him. Not the family with the money. Not the relatives with the big houses and professional Christmas cards. Not the people who claimed to love him then ghosted the moment real sacrifice was required. It was just me. And the nurses. And a quiet boy in a hospital bed who deserved more than this circus. I took his hand again and leaned in close. If you wake up today, I whispered, I promise you, things are going to be different. Because no matter what it cost, I wasn't going back to being the guy who said yes just to avoid the fallout. The fallout had already come. And I was still standing. Tyler's foot twitched. Not much. Just a flick under the blanket. But it was enough to make the nurse call Dr. Patel and Page Respiratory. A few minutes later, the ventilator picked up something new. He was trying to breathe on his own. Not consistently. Not strong. But trying. And while my heart pounded with cautious hope, my phone buzzed again. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Richard. Apparently, it was his turn. Morgan's in tears. Barbara has a migraine. You've ruined the whole day. Your behavior is making things worse. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. Then I hit call. He picked up immediately. Ethan. No, I said. Now it's my turn. I stood pacing the corner of the ICU room like a man trying not to shatter every window. You're telling me I've ruined the day? You know what ruins a day, Richard? Watching your 12-year-old son get intubated. Seeing his blood pressure drop. Wondering if he'll ever open his eyes again. I didn't mean it. You meant exactly what you said. Barbara's party matters more to you people than my son's life. You want compromise? What should I have done? Left him alone for a balloon arch? Should I have FaceTimed the party while the nurses turned him over to prevent bed sores? Silence. Exactly, I said. Don't ever call me again unless you're asking how Tyler's doing. Or better yet, showing up to help. I hung up without waiting for his reply. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt awake. Like I'd finally stopped breathing their recycled air and remembered how to use my own lungs. This wasn't rebellion. This was survival. And I wasn't just surviving for me anymore. I was surviving for the only person in this mess who deserved a future. After the call, the room felt still. Not quiet. ICUs are never quiet. Beeps, clicks, the low hum of machines doing jobs human bodies can't. But something in me had settled. Or snapped. Maybe both. I sat back down and watched Tyler. His eyelids fluttered once. Kelly came in, checked the monitors, gave a tight nod. He's doing better, she said, voice soft. Still sedated, but he's trying. I didn't answer. I was thinking about Emily. Not the funeral. Not the folded flag or the framed photo or the military salute. No, I was thinking about the night she told me she was deploying again. Tyler was 5. He just learned how to ride without training wheels. He begged her to stay. She smiled, kissed his forehead, and said, Mommy has to go be a hero. She didn't ask me if I was okay. Didn't wonder how we'd make it work. Just assumed I'd handle it because that's what I always did. What I didn't admit back then was that I was already tired. Tired of being the dependable one. The invisible one. The one who filled in the cracks while she chased medals and missions. I respected her service. I did. But there were nights when I'd sit in our too-quiet apartment, folding laundry and answering homework questions and wonder if she ever really saw us as a family. Or just a backdrop to her legacy. After she died, everyone rushed to remind me how honorable her sacrifice was. No one asked how I was sleeping. No one asked what it felt like to have your entire identity erased and replaced with a folded triangle of cloth. Barbara told me I should be grateful. Vanessa said, at least you still have Tyler. They meant well. Maybe. But none of them really saw it. The cracks were always there. And maybe I was just finally ready to stop patching them. It happened around 8:30 that evening. Tyler's fingers twitched. Not a spasm. Not a reflex. A movement. Purposeful. Controlled. Kelly saw it too. She rushed in, checked his vitals, and paged Dr. Patel. I leaned in. Tyler? I whispered. Hey, buddy. You with me? His brow furrowed. Just slightly. But I saw it. He was coming back. Then, because the universe has a sense of humor, the door swung open. Barbara. Followed by Vanessa. Perfectly dressed. Light makeup. Designer totes slung casually over her shoulder like she was arriving for brunch, not a bedside vigil. There you are, Barbara said, as if I'd been avoiding her. We've been trying to reach you all day, Vanessa added with her patented wounded tone. I set the cup of water down and stood up. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just solid. He just moved, I said. For the first time. Barbara blinked. Oh, well, that's good news. Then, like we were in a hallway at a country club, we need to talk. Outside. I'm not leaving him, I said. It's okay, Dad, Tyler whispered, his voice raspy, weak but real. I'm okay. I nearly collapsed. But I nodded, squeezed his hand, and stepped outside the door, leaving it slightly ajar so I could see him. Barbara got straight to it. Your behavior was completely unacceptable, she said. Vanessa's birthday was ruined. Everyone was asking where you were. I stared at her like she'd spoken another language. My son was in a coma, I said calmly. And now he's not. So you'll excuse me if I didn't RSVP. Vanessa chimed in. We understand you were worried. But family obligations don't just disappear because of crisis. Crisis, I repeated. Interesting word choice. Barbara crossed her arms. You being here did not change his condition. The doctors handled it. You could have made time. And that was the moment I realized they weren't just clueless. They were incapable of understanding. So I stopped trying to explain. I started setting terms. You get 5 minutes each, I said. No drama. No guilt. No more than that. He just woke up and he doesn't need your noise. You can't dictate our access, Barbara began. I can. And I am, I said. One wrong word and you're out. Permanently. She must have seen something in my face. Because for once she didn't argue. Barbara stepped into the room like a politician greeting a donor. All warmth, no depth. Hello, sweetheart, she cooed, brushing Tyler's hair back like she'd been at his bedside all week. You gave us quite a scare. Tyler blinked at her, confused. Still groggy. Still weak. You focus on getting better, she said softly. Grandma's here now. I watched like a hawk, ready to pounce if she pushed too far. But she didn't. 5 minutes. Light conversation. A few overdone, we've missed you lines. Then she was out. Vanessa followed. She showed him pictures of his cousins. Told him they'd visit soon. Said they brought gifts. She lasted 6 minutes. When they were gone, I sat back down beside Tyler. You okay? I asked. He nodded a little. Then, his voice barely a whisper. Were you fighting? About the party? I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I said. Grandma wanted me to go. But I needed to stay with you. His eyes searched mine. Then he whispered. You stayed with me the whole time? Every minute, I said. And I'm not going anywhere. He nodded. Closed his eyes again. But his grip on my hand tightened. That was all I needed. Later that evening, Dr. Patel confirmed what we hoped. Tyler was stable. Recovery would be long, but the worst was behind us. Then something strange happened. After the shift change, Nurse Marcus came in holding a small envelope. Someone dropped this off earlier. Said it was for you. No name. No return address. Inside? A flash drive. And a note. I thought you deserved the truth. That initial hit me in the chest like a freight train. There was only one person I knew who signed things like that. Avery Lang. Emily's old squad mate. The one she always said was just a friend. The one I hadn't heard from since the funeral. I stared at the flash drive like it was radioactive. I should have thrown it away. But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew. I waited until Tyler was asleep. The room was dark except for the soft pulse of monitors and the hallway light slipping through the glass. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop like I was defusing a bomb. Inside were 3 files. One was a letter. One was a photo folder. And one was a video. I opened the letter first. It was from Avery. Dated a few weeks before Emily's last deployment. You don't know me well, Ethan, and that's not an accident. Emily wanted to keep certain lines very clear. But after everything that's happened, I can't stay silent anymore. You deserve to know what your marriage really was and what it wasn't. I stopped reading. Not because I couldn't. but because I already knew where it was going. I opened the photo folder next. There they were. Emily and Avery. Not military briefings. Not team photos. Vacations. Hotels. Dinners. Her in a dress I never saw. Him in a shirt that wasn't army issue. I opened the video last. It was Emily's voice. Soft. Tired. Private. She was recording something on her phone. A message she never sent. Or never meant to. I don't know if I'm coming back. And honestly, I don't know if I should. Avery wants me to leave. Ethan deserves better. But Tyler's the only reason I'm scared to go. Click. That was it. No confession. No apology. Just confirmation. She'd been gone long before the explosion ever took her. Gone in the ways that matter most. And suddenly all of it made sense. The distance. The coldness. The way she never really fought for our marriage. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there in a hospital room beside her son, and realized that all the years I'd spent thinking I wasn't enough had actually been years where she'd already left. The next morning, Tyler asked me if I'd slept. Enough, I said. He nodded like he didn't believe me but was too polite to press. The kid's always been like that. Quiet. Observant. More like me than I care to admit. We spent the day talking in small pieces. 10 minutes here. A nap. A card from school. Then more quiet. No mention of Barbara. No mention of Emily. Just the two of us. The real family. That night I stepped outside and called Avery. He answered on the second ring. I figured you'd reach out eventually, he said. I'm not calling to yell, I told him. I'm not even calling for answers. Pause. Then why? To say thanks. Another pause. She was planning to leave, wasn't she? Avery exhaled. Yeah. She told me the day before her last deployment. Said she was staying for Tyler and the money. Said you'd be fine. You always were. That part stung more than it should have. We said a few more words. Nothing emotional. Nothing dramatic. Just closure. And then I deleted his number too. I never told Tyler. Not everything. Someday maybe. But not now. Right now his world needs to be simple. Focused. Honest. A week later we left the hospital. He walked, slow but steady. No one from Emily's family came to see us off. No surprise. They'd done what they came to do, protect their narrative. Too bad it collapsed under its own weight. We moved apartments a month later. Smaller, cheaper. Ours. I picked up more hours at work. Picked up a few photography gigs on the side. Built a little something out of the ashes. And you know what? We're doing fine. Not perfect. Not polished. But real. Tyler's healing. I'm healing. And Emily? She's a folded flag in a box. A photo on the wall. And a reminder that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. She left her story unfinished. I'm writing mine every day.